read a parable today that Jesus shared. It's called the parable of the lost son, or it could be, it's been called the story of the prodigal son. You may have heard it. Is Mark Twain write a book called The Prodigal Son? Yeah. Did he? You don't know that. It was written as just a piece of secular literature. It's a really famous story. It's a story about forgiveness, and it originates from the Bible, and Christ shared it about 2,000 years ago, and it's really cool. So I want to talk about it today. I'll just read a little bit and chat a little bit. I'll keep shut it up. It'll be good. So there's this guy, and he's got two sons. I'll backdrop the story for you. This guy's got two sons. What would happen is, when the father would die, the older son would get 2/3 of what he had. The younger son would get 1/3. I know it sounds like the poops, but yeah, I don't know why they did it. That's what they did though. So anyways, so he's got two sons, and one of the sons, kind of a Fruit Loop, wants his inheritance early, and the other son is willing to be a good son, work on the plantation, or work on the farm or whatever it is they did, keep up the family business, and then wait until his father passes away to take his money. And essentially, in the older son saying, "Can I have my inheritance now?" He's basically saying, "Dad, you're dead to me. Give me my money. Let me get on with my life." And so I'm going to read on from that. A man had two sons. The younger of them. Oh, I just lied to you for like 5 minutes. It was the younger son. So neglect the whole 2/3, 1/3 thing. Anyways, a man had two sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the estate that falls to me." So he divides his wealth between them. And not many days later, the younger son gathered everything together and went on a journey into a distant country. And there he squandered his estate with loose living. So basically, the guy takes all his money, buys up booze, drugs, and hookers, and lives life to what he expects to be the fullest until he runs out of money, and then we'll read on what goes next. Now when he had spent everything, a severe famine occurred in that country, and he began to be impoverished. So he's got nothing, and nobody's got anything to help him out. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country. He went and basically sold himself as a slave. Of that country. And he sent him into the fields to feed the swine. And he would have gladly filled his stomach with the pods that the swine were eating. So he was going to eat the pig's food. He's going to get the swine flu. And no one was giving him anything to eat. But then when he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired men have more than enough bread? But I am dying here with hunger. I will get up and go to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' As he said, 'Father, you're dead to me. Give me your money and let me get on my way. Make me as one of your hired men.'" So basically he has this incredible epiphany. Wait a minute, all the guys who work for my dad are getting more than enough bread. I'm eating pig food. Why don't I just go work for him? Since I'm not good enough to be his son anymore, since I've treated him like trash. So he got up, came to his father, but while he was still a long way off, so I picture like this kid walking down this super long driveway, he's going to see his father. While he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion for him and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And I think that's kind of cool because probably not a lot of people in here are fathers. Jeff, Chris, no, probably. And so I mean, like, but just pretend that you're a daddy or a mommy, and your kid is basically like, "How about you give me half of what you got and I'll be on my way," when he's like 17 years old or so, and he just looks it, basically says, "I don't want anything to do with you." I mean, you have to imagine the emotions that he's having, like the hurt that he must have experienced when his, the son that he had raised, he had done everything he could probably to raise right, to raise to be a decent young man, is now like, "All right, give me what's mine and get out of my face." Like, I would be pretty hurt, but I would probably be pretty pissed off as well. And I think that I wouldn't be all that ready to just be like, "Oh, great, yeah, I'm glad you're back. Why don't you have everything you want again?" I think maybe for myself, I would be a little bit more like, "Hey, here's a shovel, there's the field. Maybe in a few years I'll let you sleep in the house." And I wouldn't be so ready to embrace him back. But this is the story, and this is the way it goes. It says he embraced him and he kissed him, and the son Said the father, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his slaves, quickly bring out the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his hand and on his and sandals on his feet. And bring a fattened calf, kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For the son of mine was dead, has come to life again. He was lost, has been found. And they began to celebrate. So he basically thought his son was dead. And he said, finally my son's come home. Like, let's party it up. I mean, he had forgiven his son's trespasses. Then, yeah, that's all we need to read for today. And I just think, I think about that in my own life. Like, I grew up going to church. I grew up in a family that took me to church on Sundays, that took me to little kids' church playtime on Wednesday nights. And I grew up hearing about Jesus and God and stuff like that, but until I found out in my life that I needed Jesus, until I found out in my life that I needed, forgiveness, and that what I thought was going to be the greatest way to live, what I thought was going to be true happiness, was actually just, going to be empty, was actually just going to be sad and going to lead me down the path to hell. Until I found that out, I was just as lost as this son who was eating the pig food, who had taken his dad's inheritance and eaten the pig food. And that's how God embraces us when we come back to Him, when we in our lives realize that, we've spent a lot of our lives, and I've spent a fair amount of my life just running around, taking what God's given me, just running around and wasting it, just running around and using it for all I could get out of it, and only finding emptiness in that. And when I finally realized that God's got more for me and there's more for me in life, to go back to Him, He's not there saying, here's the shovel, there's the field, I'll let you sleep in a bed in a couple years. He's saying, welcome back, I'm glad you've come to me. He's saying, welcome into the family again. I mean, that's what He could do for us through Jesus, because when we've sinned against God, God's a holy God, and He can't let us into His presence when we have sin in our lives. So Jesus died on the cross for us, so He cleansed us of that sin, so that we could live with Him, so He could embrace us into His arms again, so that we could be called holy before Him. And that's what we as a Ripon group want to bring out to every skate park, to everywhere that we go, to every earshot that we come to, because just that God gave us Jesus Christ on the cross so that we can know Him. God gave us Jesus Christ on the cross so that we don't have to live our lives without meaning, without worth, just squandering it away, living with the swines or running around not knowing if we're even cared about by anything in this world. He gave us Jesus Christ so we can know that He cares about us. And that's the only way to know Him. That's the only way to experience His love is through Jesus Christ, His blood. So that's what we bring. I'm Nick. Thank you all so much for coming out.